Welcome to a guided meditation from Mark 3, 1 through 6, based on the simple practice. You can take this time to put your phone on Do Not Disturb mode, or better yet, out of the room completely. I invite you to close your eyes and breathe deeply. Allow your body to relax. Quiet your mind. Minimize all noise and external disruptions. As mental distractions come, acknowledge each thought. For example, I'm worried about, or stressed by, or distracted by. And then release it. I release this to you, God, or I trust you with this, Jesus. If you're not sure if you can trust Jesus, you might say, help me trust you with this, Jesus. Pause now and acknowledge your distractions as they arise. You can write them in your journal space if that's helpful for you, and rejoin when you're ready. Having gotten comfortably settled and acknowledging the first wave of distractions, we're ready to start the practice. Bring your awareness to the Spirit of Jesus who is within you. Try to picture him there. Look into his eyes with love and see him looking into your eyes with love. Distracting thoughts are a natural part of this process. Each time they arise, continue acknowledging them, releasing them, and turning your thoughts back to Jesus within you. You may find that your mind spends more time on distractions than meditation, which is completely normal. Keep bringing your mind back to Jesus and the Scripture. And now we turn to our verses, Mark 3, 1 through 6. Another time Jesus went into the synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Some of them were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, so they watched him closely to see if he would heal on the Sabbath. Jesus said to the man with the shriveled hand, "Stand up in front of everyone." Then Jesus asked them, "Which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?" But they remained silent. He looked around at them in anger and, deeply distressed by their stubborn hearts, said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was completely restored. Then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how they might kill Jesus. Today in our guided meditation, we're going to use a practice called TACS, which stands for Teaching, Adoration, Confession, and Supplication. You'll find this practice on your instruction sheet, which is linked in the description below. We start with the teachings of TACS. When we're looking at teachings, we want to look for what this text might tell us about Jesus or God or the Spirit, meaning who they are or what they do. We can also look for who we are. What does it teach us about humanity, ourselves, or who we should be? Pause now and journal any teachings that you see in this text about who God is and or who humanity is or who we should be. You can even address your journaling to Jesus if you find that helpful. You might write something like, "Jesus, I think you may be showing me," whatever your teaching is. Spirit of Jesus, we know that you are within us and around us, and we invite you to guide our minds. Pause now and journal any teachings you notice and rejoin when you're ready. As we reflect on this text to work through TACS together, I'd like to share a few observations that Timothy Keller makes in his book called Jesus the King. He says that the Pharisees' hearts are as shriveled as the man's hand. They're insecure and anxious about the regulations. They're tribal, judgmental, and self-obsessed, instead of caring about the man. Why? Religion. Most people in religions in the world believe that if there's a God, you relate to him by being good. The logic is that if I perform, if I obey, then I am good. Most of us work and work trying to prove ourselves, to convince God, others, and ourselves that we're good people. The work is never over unless we rest in the gospel. In religion, the purpose of obeying the law is to assure you that you're all right with God. In the face of this self-righteous religious preoccupation, Jesus has said, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." He affirms, even celebrates, the original principle of the Sabbath, the need for rest. Yet he squashes the legalism around its observance. He dismantles the whole religious paradigm, and he does it by pointing to his identity. Keller goes on to say, "At the end of the great act of creation, the Lord said, 'It is finished,' and he could rest. On the cross, at the end of his great act of redemption, Jesus said, 'It is finished,' and we can rest." On the cross, Jesus was saying, of the work underneath your work, the thing that makes you truly weary, this need to prove yourself because who you are and what you do are never good enough, that is finished. He's lived the life you should have lived. He's died the death you should have died. If you rely on Jesus' finished work, you know that God is satisfied with you. You can be satisfied with life. He goes on to say, the word Sabbath means a deep rest, a deep peace. It's a near synonym for shalom, a state of wholeness and flourishing in every dimension of life. When Jesus says, "I am the Lord of the Sabbath," Jesus means that he is the Sabbath. He is the source of the deep rest we need. He has come to completely change the way we rest. The 1 day a week rest we take is just a taste of the deep divine rest we need, and Jesus is its source. As we start TACS for the purpose of this guided meditation, we'll look into a couple of the teachings that I saw through Keller's lens. Feel free to go back into the teachings you identified after you're done here. Thinking of these thoughts related to our text, one teaching that we can identify is this: we work to justify ourselves, never truly resting. But in your work and death, Jesus, we can finally and completely rest in your justification of us. With this teaching, what do you see to adore about God as we move into the A of TACS? Pause now and journal at least one adoration about God related to this teaching. We work to justify ourselves, never truly resting. But in your work and death, Jesus, we can finally and completely rest in your justification of us. Rejoin when you're ready. Jesus, thank you that you are offering me the rest I have been longing for, the rest from this heavy burden of trying to be good enough. You are here, right here, breaking through with healing and restoration. Now we turn to confession, the C of TACS, in light of this teaching. Reflect on your own life, perhaps looking specifically at the last 24 hours or even week or longer. Spirit of Jesus, please guide our insights, not in a sense of shame, but honestly looking at our reality. Pause and pray and journal what you would like to confess related to this teaching and rejoin when you are ready. Jesus, I have neglected your rest and kept trying to be good, working so that others will think well of me rather than resting in your work and your acceptance and love for me. I have been hard-hearted, clutching at superiority, and fearful. Finally, we turn to our last movement of TACS, the S for supplication, which means asking for things, related to the root word supply. In fact, asking for things is often our most common mode of prayer. But in this context, it's a little different because we're asking God for things in the context of this scripture and this teaching. What would you like to ask God for in light of the reality that we work to justify ourselves, never truly resting in Jesus? Pause now to pray and journal and rejoin when you're ready. Jesus, please soften our hearts and give us faith in your work and power. Lead us to truly rest in you, deep rest, and to stop trying to justify ourselves. I invite you in this moment to bring your attention back to your breathing as we allow ourselves to rest in our sweet Jesus. Allow your breathing to deepen as you keep your attention on him, looking into his eyes of love for you. Feel free to pause now and linger in this, and rejoin when you're ready. Now let's try just one more tax garland as we follow up on a few more morsels of Keller's reflections. He notes, Jesus says he is Lord of the Sabbath. His self-awareness is startling. No other human teacher has made anything like the claims he makes. Jesus, however, understands that there is a God who is uncreated, beginningless, infinitely transcendent, who made this world, who keeps everything in the universe going so that all the molecules, all the stars, all the solar systems are being held up by the power of this God. And Jesus says, that's who I am. Keller explains that Jesus' radical claims about himself mean that we need to either see him as a liar or a crazy person, or throw ourselves at his feet and make him the center of our existence. If we try to settle for less than that, we condemn ourselves to live in a shallow world in between. Either Jesus can't hear you because he's not who he says he is, or he is who he says he is. And he must become the still point of your turning world, the center around which your entire life revolves. Based on these reflections, a teaching that I see here is that Jesus' claims call us to make him the center of our entire life, and that our everything should revolve around him. Moving to the A of tax, adoration, what would you like to adore about God in this teaching that Jesus' claims call us to make him the center of our entire life, that our everything should revolve around him? Pause and rejoin when you're ready. Lord, you are worthy of my whole life. I adore that your new kingdom and new world are so much bigger than I have appreciated. Now, as we continue to wrap the garland around this teaching, let's move to confession, perhaps thinking specifically of the last 24 hours. Where have you not made him the center of your life, with everything revolving around him? Pause to journal and pray, and then rejoin when you're ready. Jesus, I live as if I can and should control my life, as if I need to be good on my own, as if pleasing other people is my goal. My view has been small and myopic and self-serving. Thank you for your forgiveness and your rescue. I graciously accept it and receive it. Finally, we turn to our last strand of the garland, the S, supplication. What would you like to ask God for relative to this teaching that his claims call us to make him the center of our entire life, that our everything should revolve around him? Pause and rejoin when you're ready. Jesus, help us to see the greatness of who you are and what that means in our lives. We love you. We ask that you would lead us to experiences that grow our faith. Lead us into encounters with you, that you will speak with us and help us to hear you. I pray that you will show us how to use the faith that you've given us to learn how trustworthy you are. Winding down, let's take a moment here to identify a jewel or a gem from our time of meditating together. Look back over these verses and the places He's led your mind in journaling. Can you identify a word or a phrase or a verse that stands out to you? Pause now and rejoin when you're ready. Spirit of Jesus, please show us the gem that you want us to carry with us. For today's gem, I'm going to choose the phrase, perfect rest. Now, I would encourage you to find a place where you can jot your gem down and take it with you today. A Post-it note, a little notebook you can take with you, or perhaps a note on your phone. And in closing, I'll read a last bit from Keller. He says, "The renowned British minister Dick Lucas once preached a sermon in which he recounted an imaginary conversation between an early Christian and her neighbor in Rome. 'Ah,' the neighbor says, 'I hear you're religious. Great. Religion is a good thing. Where is your temple or holy place?' 'We don't have a temple,' replies the Christian. 'Jesus is our temple.' 'No temple? But where do your priests work and do their rituals?' 'We don't have priests to mediate the presence of God,' replies the Christian. 'Jesus is our priest.' 'No priests? But where do you offer your sacrifices to acquire the favor of your God?' 'We don't need a sacrifice,' replies the Christian. 'Jesus is our sacrifice.' 'What kind of religion is this?' sputters the pagan neighbor. And the answer is, it's no kind of religion at all. We praise you, Jesus.